Hi everyone. I hope you're having a good summer. I've actually been on vacation for the last month, which is why I didn't get around to the video that I promised to make about how I went about handling difficult classes. So I'm going to talk about that in this video. But before I get started, I want to ask you guys a favor. Thank you for all the support. I'm trying to improve sort of the videos that I make on the channel. So I've created a survey. If you are willing to just answer very briefly about a few short questions just about what you found helpful about the video, what you think would be better about the videos, and things like that, because I'm just trying to focus on the channel and improve the kinds of videos that more students like you would find helpful. So in the description below is a link to a survey, a Google Form survey. If you are willing to fill it out, that would mean a lot to me, and I would be really grateful for any input you guys might have. Okay, so let's get into the main video. So this video is talking about how I approach difficult classes, because I took a lot of difficult classes throughout school. I took a lot of AP exams. I think 11 AP exams ultimately throughout high school, something like that. And then I did electrical engineering at Berkeley, with a lot of tough courses in there, and same at Stanford University, where I did my master's in electrical engineering. A lot of tough courses there. I probably slacked off a little bit around that time, but overall, there's sort of an approach that I will have you think about in terms of a mindset, in terms of things to think about when you're taking on difficult courses. Because right now, AP classes might be, especially like AP Physics 1, might be one of the harder classes you've had to take in high school so far. But that's sort of just the beginning of your journey if you are planning on going to college and doing on courses in there. That courses will get technically harder, and you might struggle a little bit more. You have to remember that the AP exams are equivalent to college courses, a one semester college course. You learn it over a year, but in college you do it in half a year, one semester instead. So I found a lot of students when they went to college as a big transition of how to study for hard courses if they've never had to before. That's that's one of the things that, especially you go to a school like Berkeley, where I met a lot of very, very intelligent people, people smarter than me by far. But they sometimes ran into issues because they didn't know how to handle a class that was very difficult. It was the first time they took a difficult course, and they weren't sure how to study, how to prepare, and they just kind of fell behind. So I'll just give you a few tips that I suggest to students who are going into the college for the first time, and it is still applicable to the high school courses as well, but definitely more geared towards in college level, how to prep for difficult courses. The first thing, the biggest tip I have to say to anyone is never try not to fall behind. What do I mean by that? Falling, especially in college where no one's keeping track of your attendance in classes, it's very easy to just skip class or be like, I'll catch up on it. And that happens a lot in high school sometimes. You feel like you're behind in one class, and you have to work on a project, so you get behind, and then you'll catch up later. I will tell you that because of the pacing that difficult courses go through, that falling behind is usually disastrous, because you usually have to because it moves so quickly that you have to not only master the previous material, but also keep on top of the current material. It's really, really impossible to try to cram all the material that you missed at the end of the year. Okay, so falling behind is the one of the worst things that can happen when you're taking class, because you have to work so much harder and you only make a little bit of progress. Whereas if you can stay on top of it, that's tough to stay on top of things, but it's really, really important that you stay on top of it, especially in STEM courses where they sort of build on top of one another. If you don't have a good foundation of the previous material, then the next layer they put on and the next layer put on is really tough to master. I remember one time I had a Berkeley student reach out to me for tutoring, and he had not gone to any classes between midterm 1 and midterm 2, and he was on spring break, and he was trying to catch up. And I was like, look, realistically, that's so much material, right? Like, in terms of pure lecture material from a professor, you're talking about, like, tens of hours of just material, and not just to mention the practice that you have to do to mastery. You can't just make that up in a week. You can't just work hard in a week to make up that amount of time. It takes a certain amount of practice and a certain amount of time to put in order to master something. So, not falling behind. That's super key. You got to stay on top of the homeworks. Try not to be like, put them off and then think that you'll be able to get to them later. The second thing I would tell you is you have to practice a lot and really, really focus on the homeworks. I see a lot of people these days try to use Chegg or try to use other things to shortcut their homeworks a little bit, to be like, oh, I'm just trying to get my homework done. Homeworks are not a huge part of your grade, usually in college. It's usually a small portion. You're lucky if it's 20%. Okay, usually, sometimes it's not even required that you do homework. But it is super important to keep mastering and practicing the material, because if you can't do the homeworks, there's no way you're going to do well in the tests, the examinations. Okay, and you need that level of practice in order to get good at any problem solving. You have to be able to work at the fundamentals, just practice, just like we do in the, if you look at my AP videos of me problem solving, I'm only good at it because I've practiced so much. I've done so many problems, right? It's not that I'm naturally gifted or I'm naturally smarter or I naturally understand things better. It's really the amount of times I've practiced and I got through. I've seen the problems, I've seen the variations. And the practices and the homework is the best way for you to do practice. So stay on top of the homework. On a difficult class in college, my most difficult class was my freshman year. It was a physics honor series at Berkeley, physics H7A, H7B. The homework's regular, a good week would be if it only took me 10 hours to do the homework. Usually it was more like 15. 15 hours per week doing that problem set. They were that difficult. And it really, really tested my ability to understand the material. So, an easy class, like calculus, multivariable calculus for me, I only spent maybe 2 to 3 hours a week on the homework. But in a difficult class, 10 hours easily. These are not projects. These are just normal problem sets. Problem set in that class would have been like 6 questions. And they were difficult, and they just took me a while to digest and to process and things like that. Don't shortcut that process a little bit by trying to just look up the answer or anything like that. Just see if you really, really can test yourself to understand. You have to dig deep to really try to figure out what it is that I need to do to figure out how to break down that problem. The last one is related to not skipping class, but don't pick early classes. This is more geared for college students. You might think that you're in class not as much because you only got 4 classes, but as I'm telling you, you have a lot of work to do outside of class. Don't pick early ones. My college roommate picked Calculus 1, 8 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and the only sure thing I knew at 7:45 a.m. was that an alarm would go off that he would just turn off and then skip class. Okay, so don't think that because you're used to doing it in high school, when no one's making you go and there's no accountability or anything like that, you're just going to make yourself with the sheer willpower to do it. I wouldn't recommend it unless you are really, really, really disciplined. So those are my top tips for handling difficult classes. If you put in the work throughout the year, you'll find that finals are really easy. Finals week, I watched movies, I relaxed, because at that point, I either knew the material or I didn't know the material. And you can't cram difficult class material into a few hours of studying. There's just no way. You cannot master. If it's just like if you took AP Physics 1 or AP Calculus, if I told you you didn't really show up to lectures the entire time for one semester, we covered all this material, do you think in 2 days you could study and master all of the material? Absolutely not. There's no, unless you're a savant and you're just super procrastinating, but you are incredibly brilliant, then you probably don't need to be watching my videos and you're not here. But For most people, you have to put in effort. So for me, it was about being prepared for a test, relaxing, getting a good night's rest. My finals week's times were just watching movies, sleeping in, playing video games. Okay, so if you stay on top of it throughout the year, you just relax a little bit at the end, try to just feel confident about the material, and that's how I handled all of my classes throughout college and doing my master's. So I hope you found that helpful. You guys have any other questions or things about difficult classes or any questions about my background, please leave it in the comments below. And thanks for watching.